You're such an asshole.
We have a good philosophical question, of course, from our Ashkenazi Jewish agent in the field, our buddy Arkady. Here it is. Dear Aaron, here's a new video request for you. Please name a price. I've immensely enjoyed attending a few lectures by several prominent speakers on libertarianism, freedom, left versus right, where we are headed as a nation, etc. I'm sure you know some of these speakers, but I'll just name a few. Tom Woods, Jeff Deist of the Mises Institute. Jeffrey Tucker, if you want to go old school, Murray Rothbard, Mises himself. They make their living in part from lectures and podcasts and in part from publishing books, and some of them also teach in colleges. I have two questions about these type of people. Would you consider them to be the type of liberal arts deadbeats who you often slam and who are a burden on society, given that they don't really produce anything tangible on one hand, but simply share the relative abstract ideas for free? Two, why don't these types of people seem to ever be running for an office? Is it because they have better things to do, or is it because they don't think they can win, or is it because they're so cynical that they believe we are beyond repair and doomed? Thanks. Okay, well, you have to ask them that point. I could speculate. But let's go to we'll take these one in an order. So the first question, would you consider them to be the type of liberal arts deadbeats who you often slam and who are a burden on society, given that they don't really produce anything tangible on one hand, but simply share the relatively abstract ideas for a fee? Well, here's generally, no. Generally not. All right, but I'm going to give you exceptions or give you two ways to think about that. First, you kind of answered your own question right here. Who are a burden to, given they don't really produce anything tangible on one hand, but simply share the relatively abstract ideas for a fee. Well, who's paying that fee, Arkady? Like, you may say, well, these are, fluffy, esoteric, cootsy-wootsy economic theories, and you personally wouldn't pay for that. But I know one guy in particular, he loves the Mises Institute. He gives them money all the time. You might go get their master's degree. Tom Woods, he has his show. No one's putting a gun to put people, into people's heads to go listen to him. I think Tom Woods was also the guy who came up with a homeschooling curriculum. I think people pay for that. People buy these people's books. I mean, it's no different than what I do here. I mean, maybe a little bit more crass. We cover more topics than just economics. But, my dad including, I can't believe people pay. He doesn't get it. But I was like, yeah, but he's not the only guy in the market. So as long it's volunteerism is the concept. As long as people willingly pay someone to do whatever it is, then it doesn't matter. They're producers. They're producing value to someone. It is a private transaction. For example, I had a guy contact me. What's not Elton John? Andy Warhol. That's not art. I don't care. I wouldn't pay a nickel for any of his crap. Most of the art that I see, rare times I've gone to museums that are, I wouldn't pay for that. What did people pay for Piss Christ? What did people pay for a blue dot painted on a white canvas? It's not up to me. It is up to the individual who really likes the blue dot on the white canvas. Somebody really wanted to have Piss Christ. And so as long as you're not collecting a government check, you are not a parasite. And a perfect example, someone that you, me, most everybody here with, half a brain cell and some morality would be ideologically, philosophically, and morally opposed to would be the two lying economists that just disgust me, Robert Reich and the other short gremlin looking one. His twin brother, what is the other guy? Krugman. Now, Reich, I think, probably does collect government checks because I think he's a professor. And he was a Secretary of Labor under Clinton. But Krugman, for example, remove Reich. Krugman is paid by the private sector. People at the New York Times pay him to come up with rationalizations for socialism and stealing other people's money and money printer go burr. Now, you may not like that. That may be unethical in your mind. But who cares? People pay money to be lied to all the time. That's how Oprah made all of her money. And there's another example. Women want to be told big is beautiful. Hello, Cosmopolitan, Athleta, the latest propaganda with Target. Like, oh yeah, big is beautiful. Doesn't matter what you and I think of it morally, ethically, functionally. People will pay for what they want to pay for. And it is not up to you and I to judge. Women want to consume lies about being big is beautiful. People want to do heroin, even though it's detrimental to their health, because people want to believe that we can make money, print or go burn it. If they want to pay for it and they've earned their money, and that person provides them the propaganda or the lies or the product they want. So from a microeconomic, a micro individual transaction, yeah, vice and good things, they both sell, and it's not up to. So when you have, it doesn't matter which economist, or you could even, like, Noam Chomsky would be another example. That guy hasn't done jack. I don't care if you're a Noam Chomsky fan. Don't tell me that old fart has done anything contributive to society. He hasn't advanced. Oh, it's more of other people's money, but prettier words. And there's your Noam Chomsky. People pay for him. People buy his books. You can't critique it. So they're not living off of society. So I would say no, using that standard, your Mises Institute economists or economists in general don't do it. Now, if you're just an academic economist, economics teacher, and you're getting paid at a state school and you force kids to buy your overpriced textbook for $300 a pop to say more of other people's money. Oh yeah, then you're a scumbag. You're a parasite. Absolutely. Right. But then if all of a sudden you write a book and people buy it, why we're entitled to other people's money? Oh my God, it's the greatest book ever. So you hit it right here, but simply share the relatively abstract ideas for a fee. Will someone pay that fee willingly? So they're being productive. And it's one of the, I guess, to conclude on this one point, especially for everybody tuning in there, value truly is in the eye of beholder. And as long as people willingly transact their money for value, somebody wants a Ferrari. I think you're nuts spending $250,000 on that car. Not up to me. Makes the person happy. Somebody goes and buys a Big Mac. Hey, that's kind of unhealthy. Doesn't matter. Makes them happy. I go to a private school and buy an overpriced degree at Middlebury with no help from the taxpayer. Go ahead. Waste your time. You got utility out of it. You did. And that's because otherwise, what are we supposed to do? Become a communist country and start lording and lecturing people about what they should and should not value? That's a nightmare scenario. So for the most part, they're not. Now, on a macro, global, whatever, larger philosophical level, where you might make an argument that they are deadbeats, is in what economists do is they argue for the efficient allocation of resources or capital. And for example, when I was in banking, my job was not sexy, at least at the beginning. Well, it never was really. But my first job was a credit analyst, and it's boring. And all I did was take financial statements and analyze the risks associated with lending money to different people or different businesses. And most people would just, well, that's a very important service. It just seems like, who cares? Well, because the efficient allocation of resources and capital helps the economy grow. Because if we don't do that right, we get the financial crisis. And the S&L bailout and all these other it's not a surprise that a lot of the economic problems we face start in the banking industry. Why? Because they didn't allocate capital efficiently. And so if you look at it from that perspective, as it specifically pertains to economists have an obligation to society, and I'd say a moral obligation, a professional obligation, that you make sure that capital is efficiently allocated so that we can grow society and advance society as quickly as possible, eliminate poverty as quickly as possible, things like that. And where I would argue that even if they're getting paid by private money to tell people lies, when economists lie about the reality of economics, then they are not just pariahs, but they're becoming villains and criminals against society, because they're undermining the future economic growth and potential and standards of living of society in advocating economic systems that simply don't work or will result in, namely socialism. There's other isms, fascism, environmentalism, not beyond the point of what's good for, where it becomes a cult, where they do it just to be popular. And there you can make an argument that many economists, if not the majority of them, are indeed deadbeat liberal arts losers. These people never worked a real job. They've never started businesses. Their primary form of income is to provide a mathematical or at least the research rationale for politicians to take more money and spend more. Money printer go burr going, deficits don't matter. I'm like, oh yeah, they don't. Oh yeah, no, I want to hear. Yeah, no, let's just see how this money printer go burr. Oh, printing off money will make the plague go away. Oh, okay. I don't remember taking a bioeconomics course over an economic virology course, how printing money will make viruses go away. And so when you see that, and this is where a lot of these economists they're shills. They themselves know they don't even believe their own BS. Some of them do, of course, because it's popular to believe in taking other people's money. And you look at where most of them hail from. They're from academia, nonprofit institutions. So they're kind of in their own echo chamber. Some maliciously know they're lying. Others actually believe, well, if we just print off more money, if we tweak the reserve requirement ratio. Also keep in mind, a lot of these economists, just so you know, at one time I was an economist. It's a BS field beyond some basic principles, and it's really just a philosophy. There's not. They come up with so much worthless crap. These like, oh, the Phillips curve, oh, the Laffer curve. Oh, look at it. We did a study here. Oh, look at it. Like, did you print off more money? Yes. How much? 20%. I bet your price is going up 20%. It's not that hard. It really isn't. No such thing as a free lunch. It's very simple. But to create this, and this is where I might even have a critique against the Mises Institute. It's like, yeah, okay, we got it already. Credit bubbles. All right. When you guys get your own heads out of your own asses and start doing something else? But as it would pertain to a Mises Institute or, I don't know, the Chicago Boys or whatever, where they advocate reality, which is you don't get no free lunch and money printer go burr and central banks flooding markets with money really just creates bubbles and it's bad for us. They're actually doing, I don't want to say the Lord's work, but they're doing the job of what a real economist would do. And that is try to efficiently allocate resources. And this is on the macro level, on the national level, where you're not just talking a bank. You're like, hey, as a nation, we should have a balance. But hey, as a nation, we shouldn't pay people to breed kids that aren't going to do nothing else but breed more kids. Hey, as a nation, we should let people have the majority of their wealth so that they might be able to make their own decisions. And historically, that so they're advocating for that. So in that sense, I would even argue if economists pursue the efficient allocation of resources and capital for the long-term benefit of society, then I would say, even if they aren't getting paid, well, should I be paid private sector? But if they're just pontificating on their own and not getting paid for it, I would argue they are not these esoteric liberal arts majoring idiots. Oh, to some extent, maybe it's like, okay, do you really need a doctorate in that? Really? You wrote another thesis paper? Okay. I'd argue that they are not your touchy-feely liberal arts majors. Simply because they're advocating something that's difficult. It'd be almost the same thing as a politician. Like, what? We can't do that. That's not going to work. Like the politician that tells bad news, like, hey, we have to reform Social Security. We got to cut welfare spending. That person is more of a statesman, I guess, or a custodian. What's the word I'm looking for? Custodian, a steward of society. And then the counterpart's like, yep, free things for everybody and hate those people over there and those people advantage differently and this and that. And no, we can, who are lying for their own personal gain, who don't care about the future of the economy. And that I would say is about 95% of the economists out there. All right. And I hate to break it down into left or leaning ones, but they advocate an economic system of parasitism, laziness, and sloth. And that's what and then they'll come up with the numbers and their own rationalizations to figure it out. But those, yeah, I'd say about 90 to 95% of economists are not fraudulent. They're just worthless. They would fit your stereotype of the worthless liberal arts major that, I mean, they don't contribute anything to society. And for every Paul Krugman who actually gets paid willingly by people's private money, I'm sure there's, a dozen or a score of academic economists who didn't even work in banking. They didn't even actually do the numbers to efficiently allocate capital. Wouldn't it be nice if we just took other people's money? Because I feel so good. And then as for your second one, why don't these type of people seem to ever be running for office? Is it because they have better things to do? Yes. Or is it because they don't think they can win? Also, yes. Or is it because they're so cynical that they believe we are beyond repair and doom? Yes. I would say for most economists within Mises, it's not worth it. Because if you're a good economist, time and individuals are more important than money. But like, for example, Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi have lived miserable lives. I've never seen them smile. And of course, I'm speculating, but they don't look happy. Why they ran for politics? You know what a pain in the ass politics is? Running for office, having to deal with the other party, everyone besmirching your character, whether you deserved it or not. When I was younger, not that I was contemplating running for office, but like, boy, I'd take a crack at governor. No way. I want to be governor. I want to be mayor. I sat one time, what y'all ought to do? Why don't y'all go sit in just a city hall meeting or your city council meeting? See how boring and petty that is. And I would give at least writer or libertarian or leaning economists the intelligence to no, my family's more important. My time's more important. My intellectual endeavors and pursuits are more important. I think especially with the writer leaning economists, they have to be intellectually honest and courageous enough to say things that are not popular and say, no, it's like this. The emperor's got no clothes, which disqualify you for becoming a politician. I'd also say, especially now, a lot of these economists, and only because I've also had this observation, so I surmise a bunch of other economists and other people as well might have had this, who wants to lead this group of people? I can't forget politics. I can't get people who work at IKEA to deliver an effing couch to me on time. I have to sit on the phone line over at the retirement place where I got my IRA, say, hey, why didn't you invest this in the S&P 500 like I told you to? And I've lost on 6 months of gains. People driving slow, people saying we hate you because you have this color or this gender, and if you don't use my prime, after a while, you're like, yeah, this society kind of sucks. They don't deserve my statesmanship. I'm not taking my finite life and becoming President Camacho in Idiocracy. Great movie. House of Representing. Oh, I love that. What is it? Was that Terry Crews? Yeah, I think Terry Crews was the President Camacho. So yeah, I think they don't run because they're more empirical. They're not going to bother. Mexi Mike, $2. I just realized we need more debt paying money love. Huh? All right, that's it. Okay. Questions, answers, AskLoveConsultant.com. See you guys later. Toodles.